Hello everyone, I'm Lisa from Biomagnetism Australia, and today I'm doing a session, you're going to follow along, for my son who has a cold. This is something that we do just when we see that a cold is sort of not resolving easily on its own. A cold isn't always a major deal, and so I don't run around and treat every single cold in the family. Just when I see that the body just needs a little help to get over it. So you're going to watch me do a very quick version. My son is very familiar with this. He's had treatment since he was 4 years old. He was my first client. And I'm going to just write down the pairs that I've found and place them all at once. So this is a little shortcut that I sometimes take when there's not enough time, or if it is uncomfortable for the person to lay still for a long period of time, is to find the pairs, writing them down as I go, and then place them all together at the end. The process of stopping what you're doing, placing a pair, testing it, getting it just so, it takes a little time, so this just makes it a little more efficient. But the way I do this normally when a client comes in is to place the pairs as I find them. So even if that first testing point shows a pair, I immediately place the pair. Anyway, enjoy. Okay, we have a very large discrepancy to start with. We have a very large Goy's pair here. So I'm going to have to start right there. So the Goy's pair is a functional leg shortening that happens because of stress usually, but sometimes it's because of kidney issues or emotional reasons. So it just means that we've got one leg longer or shorter than the other before we even start. And this pair, the Goy's pair, actually just straightens it right up for us. So we've got two legs that are the same length. We've got our baseline set. Achilles, adductor, adrenal, angina, ankle, anus, appendix, ascending colon, atlas, AP node, axilla, basal nuclei, bladder, brachial, bronchus, bursa, cecum, canthus, cardius, carina, carotid, cava, cerebellum, cervical, cervical plexus, C1, C1, C3, C7, cheekbone, chiasm, chin, chin, chondral, circle of Willis, clitoris, coccyx, commissure, contracecum, coronary, costal, costodiaphragmatic, costohepatic, cranial, deltoid, descending colon, diaphragm, Douglas sac, duodenum, ear, elbow, epigastrium, ethmoid. external ligament, eye, eyelid, fallopian tube, fibula, frontal, flank, thorax. Man, this is funny. Fibula, frontal. Do you need a tissue?
I'm alright, thanks.
Okay, cool. Flank, gallbladder, gallbladder duct, gluteus, greater trochanter, hepatic ligament. I don't know what I said, that was so funny. But laughter heals. Let's have a laughter break. Fibula, frontal, flank, gallbladder, gallbladder duct, gluteus, greater trochanter, hepatic ligament, hepatopancreatic ampulla, hip, humerus, iliac crest, iliocecal valve, iliocecal valve. Ilium, index, inguinal nerve, interciliary, internal ligament, ischial ramus, ischium, ischium branch, ischiatic crest. Interiliac rim, kidney, lacrimal, larynx, lesser trochanter, liver, posterior lobe, lung, malar, mandible, manubrium, mediastinum, mediastinum. Mediastinum, mastoid, neck, neck of the femur, nose, occipital, omentum, orbital floor, ovaries, esophagus, esophageal hiatus, palm, pancreas, pancreas duct, pancreatic ligament, pancreatic ligament. Pancreas head, pancreas body, pancreas tail, pancreas tip, parietal, parotid, pericardium, perihepatic, perirenal, peritoneal, pineal, pituitary, polo, popliteus, postpineal, prepineal, preauricular, prostate, pudendo, pylorus, quadratus, pinky finger, quadriceps, radius, rectum, renal calyx, renal capsule, sacrum, scar tissue, stump, shoulder, sigmoid, spleen, sternum, sternocleidomastoid, subclavian, supraciliary, suprahepatic, suprapubic, supraspinatus, temple, temporal, temporoccipital, tensor fascia latae, testicle, thoracic, T2, T5, T6, T8, T10, thymus, thyroid, tongue, tibia, tooth, tooth, tooth. Tibia, tongue, tooth, trachea, transverse colon, ulna, upper ear, uterus, ureta, vaccine, vas deferens, wrist, zygomatic arch, sigmoid appendix, reservoirs, fungus, virus, parasite, bacteria, special pairs, dysfunctions. Virus, Schistosoma, Anisaki, Agalactiae, Yellow Fever, GM E. coli, Babesia, Burkholderia, Borrelia, Bartonella, Chlamydia pneumoniae, Chlamydia tucans, Chlamydia intestinalis, Cryptococcus, Cryptosides, Chikungunya, Campylobacter, Listeria, H1N1, H1N3, H1N5, H1N7, Ebola, Exanthema subitum, BK virus, Zika, COVID-19 virus, tumoral phenomenon, tumoral genesis, vascular injury, potential spaces, emotional problems, psychological problems, self-image problems, lack or deficiency, vitamins, vitamins, vitamins A, C, E, K, K, K. Spiritual, malice, chakras, chromosomes, hormonal imbalance, medical iatrogenia, EMFs. Okay, so we're ready to do the rest of the magna work. Because Odin here is young, he's 14 and otherwise healthy. We've got a really strong contraction, so I'm getting a 3 to 4 centimeters leg length change. Doesn't always move anywhere near that much. Some people are a little stiffer with age, that our contractions aren't quite as strong. But regardless of how far the leg moves in each individual, we can always find that contraction. So because we have magnets on the inside of the elbows, that getting my son to help hold the magnet while I test it's probably going to pop off. It's probably not going to work real well. It's going to lose the placement down here. So sometimes for testing, we actually take them on to test. strong positive there. This chin point is actually usually gives respiratory symptoms. Not all of the biomagnetic pairs are location specific. Sometimes their symptoms are felt elsewhere in the body, although they are frequently location specific. But yeah, this is just one of those that's more about the lung and less about the jaw and the mouth area. Can give neurological symptoms too, behavioural, anything to do with cognitives. Now I'm going to use some of Rosemary's spaces here, because when we've got magnets close together, we don't want them to pull out of position because of the attracting force between them. We want them to stay put where we leave them. So I've got one on the bladder, and I need to do one on the ileocecal valve, which is quite close. Now I've already got a magnet here on the kidney, so I'll show you my favourite little trick to do there to make sure that those kidney positions stay there, because they're out of sight. Especially if you've got a client with a cold, they may sneeze, they may cough, and something behind them might shift. So I like to pull out the original magnet that's on the kidney already and stick it to a spacer bar along with the new one. So I've got a digestive pair behind the hips or the glutes. Last one is mediastinum, so halfway up the sternum. So whenever we find biomagnetic scanning point that's out of balance, there can be more than one possible pairing for where you need to place the second magnet. So this is one of those cases. The mediastinum can go with the descending colon, it can go with the liver, it can go with itself, it can go with pericardium, it can go with the spleen. So because I've been doing biomagnetism a number of years now, over 10 years, I tend to kind of intuitively know which one it is, and I tend to make a best guess so that the first location I check tends to be most of the time correct. But new practitioners will have to check all 5 possibilities until they stumble across the one that gives the balance. And because any pair can cause anything, you can't figure it out logically. So what I have done here is I've put 2 different shapes of magnets together to create the biomagnetic pair. You can mix and match them. The shape, it usually sort of allows the best possible fit, or the best way to sort of impact pair in a particular body part, more because of the shape, not because one is stronger. It's an all or nothing phenomenon, the biomagnetic pair are neutralizing these points. So a slightly stronger magnet doesn't neutralize it any better or faster. It either does or it doesn't. And again, we're up to pancreatic ligament. I've got multiple options here. Okay, so when we have the tooth come up, we can actually ask the patient if they've got any tooth pain. We can ask if they've had any deep dental work done, because this can narrow down which tooth it might be. But even an asymptomatic tooth can sometimes have a biomagnetic pair. Can be a reservoir, it doesn't necessarily mean it's infected. So it could be completely asymptomatic, and it's just part of what we do when we're neutralizing imbalances in the body to be thorough. So a reservoir pair may not give any symptom whatsoever, but it may harbour some germs and their ability to sort of come back later after the body has mostly healed and perhaps pull back into another round of whatever the symptom was again. So I'm just going to ask, Odin, do you have any sore teeth? Do you have any?
No.
Okay. So when I want to check over the teeth and I don't know where to start, I will ask the client to hold up here. So look at the tooth root more than anything. So get them to hold it over the place on the upper jaw there where the teeth start. And I'll get them to slowly move across their face while I look at the feet and look for a response. So if we hit a pocket that is too alkaline, then the right leg will shorten. If we hit a spot that's too acidic, the right leg lengthens. That's the way it generally goes. And after doing this, we'll do the same thing here. And then the lower teeth all the way across there. So there's a process of elimination. And again, if you're intuitive, you often just start at the spot where it is, because the more you do work with the body, whether or not it's with the magnets. Some people come into biomagnetism with a lot of bodywork experience. We have a bit of a sixth sense as to where the problems are, and we don't always understand why we sense that. But yeah, you guys will know what I'm speaking about. Like if you've been to someone who's a chiropractor or a body worker, and they seem to just go right to the problem. When they're intuitive, when they're experienced, it's kind of in there somewhere, and they will just get to where the problem point is really rapidly. So the more we work with the magnets, the more we make the best guess and we check the spot. We accidentally check the spot that happens to have the problem, we check it first. So I'd sort of call this a little bit of medical intuition that creeps in over time. Some people come in with it because their relationship with working with bodies is strong already. It's almost like you've got a sense that's already had a lot of practice. But nevertheless, people that come into biomagnetism raw, they come in with no other health or bodywork sort of background, as they notice the same thing over time as well. Can you hold that there?
Oh.
The tooth can pair with itself in any direction, above, below, left, right. The tooth can pair with the kidney of the same side. They're the most common biomagnetic pairs that we're looking for. So I've got tooth with itself showing up. I'm just recording the time that the last biomagnetic pair went on, and I'm going to add 16 minutes because here in Brisbane it takes 16 minutes for our biomagnetic pairs to neutralise. We do have a formula to work that out. It is based on where we are on the planet. So the closer we are to the equator, the shorter the treatment time. That just means that magnets working on the body take less time to create change at the cell membrane level and to move any ionic disturbances that are happening, those famous pH imbalances that we work with. The further you are from the equator, the longer this process seems to take. Theoretically, the idea is that the magnetic forces of the planet itself are working either with or against us, and actually sort of, as you can just imagine, as one force overlaying another, they're going to have an interference. They're either going to help something happen or work against it and slow it down. So where we are, it's not too bad. We have a pretty short deactivation time. It could be as little as 13 minutes, but we add an extra 3 minutes just for good measure. When there's a lot of solar activity, like we've had lately, it can take a little bit longer on some days to neutralise the biomagnetic pair. So that extra 3 minutes we add on usually covers it. So now I've got all of the biomagnetic pairs that came up during the scan on. I sometimes choose to put a couple more pairs on that are related to either organ function, or they help to bring inflammation down, like more of the first aid type applications we can do. So To help the lung that is trying to heal, I can put 2 magnets side by side over the centre of the lung on the back. So 2 magnets side by side is what we call double polarity. Double polarity on any organ or gland can help it function a little better in a very in a non-curative way. So the biomagnetic pairs, when we neutralize them and place the magnets on those points, they're meant to deactivate and cure that biomagnetic pair. It's rare that we would have to repeat it, but magnets placed on an organ or gland that doesn't have a biomagnetic pair can just help the function along. It can give a boost to the body. And we don't have to test for this because we're not going to find a biomagnetic pair. I've already checked those. So deliberate placement of pairs on organs and glands, 2 together like this, is called double polarity. And if the organ or gland needs a little bit of help, then you'll see a response. You won't know that. Half the time we place these on, nothing at all will happen, or nothing tangible will happen, but there is no harm in placing them anyway. So it's a little bit like applying essential oils at home, for example, is they're probably helping a little bit, and they're helping to move the body in the right direction and keeping healing on track. They're not curative on their own, but they help a little. So I'm going to place a couple of those as well, in particular for the lung. Now, if my patient had trouble sleeping and that was the biggest problem they were dealing with in their recovery, I'd want to do some pairs for sleep. So it's more about what they're experiencing and what would help them out. So it can be useful if you're doing something as simple as a cold or flu, is once you've got everything in place is to have a look at other things as well. So somebody who's got a cold or flu, again, they might not be sleeping well, they might need some help there. Another thing as well is they could be starting to get a little dehydrated. It takes a lot of water to make that mucus and to push all the toxicity out of the body through the process of healing. And so from that, occasionally a person might have some constipation issues. And so that we do have constipation pairs, for example, so that you might sort of pick up a couple of other useful things that might help recovery. If the client has come to you with a cold or a flu and they were in the middle of treatment for a long-term condition, so they were working on a syndrome, they were working on overcoming something big and chronic, and they've come in just for a cold or a flu, that some of your other biomagnetic pairs that were to do with the long-term chronic stuff may come through as well. Intention does come into it, so if we intend to just focus on the cold or flu and leave any other biomagnetic pairs for another day, it does tend to give us mostly what's going on with the cold or flu. But the caveat is the body is intelligent. The body might decide that something else is more of a priority than what we think the priority is right now. Logically, well, we might be working on rheumatoid arthritis, but a cold or a flu came up, and this is causing suffering, and so we're focusing on that. But some of the bacteria involved in rheumatoid arthritis might also be now involved in repairing the lung and part of this healing process that's going on with the cold or the flu. And so you may have some common causes, and again, because anything can cause anything, we won't know that. But the intelligence of the body could give us the more important biomagnetic pairs that seem unrelated to a cold or a flu. But never second guess it, just place the magnets. There is an element of trust with biomagnetism. is whatever the body shows us is out of balance, we need to respect that and place the magnets. It doesn't matter what the association is with that biomagnetic pair. A fungus pair might show up when a person has a bacterial problem. Don't overthink it. Some unusual things or biomagnetic pair causes can show up. Now, the reason why I don't want you to overthink it is because we don't know everything about every biomagnetic pair. Some haven't been discovered yet. Some of them double up. Some of the bacteria pairs that have never been found yet will be found on fungal points, or they'll have a biomagnetic pair sort of mirroring the exact same biomagnetic pair, can be fit for both a fungal imbalance and a bacterial one. And so what we're going to find in the future, with the biomagnetic pairs that haven't yet been discovered, it could very well be an imbalance related to one that we don't understand. And when it comes to microbe points, they really don't mean you have the microbe. So when someone has an acute infection, very likely the biomagnetic pair microbe points will be all about that current infection. But when it comes to things that are more chronic, you can have the biomagnetic pair for a bacteria, but the bacteria isn't in the body. The biomagnetic pair is an imbalance, it's not a bacteria. The imbalance itself does tend to help support bacteria when it comes along, or it might even invite in bacteria to help repair something. And so the biomagnetic pair is more fundamental than the microbe, and it doesn't necessarily define the microbe. So that brings us down to colds and flus and microbes. Whether or not you believe viruses are real, or if it's all about the terrain. I do tend to think the terrain is far more important than the microbe. But we can't ignore the microbe in some cases. That's why if a person has a serious illness, that they should have a doctor, they should also have someone who does their biomagnetic pair work, that you're covering all bases. But when it comes to microbes and your colds and flus, the microbe level will be highest just before you realize you're actually sick. So the microbe doing something to the tissue and creating some damage is happening usually just before you realize it. You might be feeling a bit blunt, you might feel a bit moody, a bit wanting to go to bed early, or there's just some subtle stuff going on. And that could be when your viral count is highest, that could be when the bacterial count is highest. By the time the cough comes along and the headache, those numbers are coming down. Your body's repairing. It's unfortunate that repairing feels like a whole lot of inflammation, but it's normal. It's how the body does its thing. Toxicity being created and released is part of healing. It's really uncomfortable. But yeah, make no mistake that the symptomatic part of a cold or a flu is the body doing its thing to heal. It's going to be hard for you to know, does the body need any help with that? But this is just where we come back to common sense. Is that, is this following a normal path of an illness? A cold or a flu is generally a viral illness, where we feel some strong symptoms for 3 days, and then after that it should very quickly dissipate. So if it's really extended and going past a normal expression, then the body needs a lot of help. If there's a lot of redness, swelling, and really obvious, intense expression of sort of bacterial illness that needs some medical care, don't ignore it. But using the magnets as well as anything else that might be needed, is you're going to have a far easier recovery. And getting back to school quicker, getting back to work quicker. Now, when someone comes in with a viral illness, it might be day 3, it might be day 7, it's really dragging on, and that's why they finally did something about it. So, I can do a scan on someone and not find any viruses at all. and that there's bacteria involvement still there in creating the symptoms. So in that way that I can never really for certain with any certainty say, oh, you've definitely had a common cold virus, or you've got the flu virus or COVID-19. You can have the biomagnetic pairs associated with all of those things, or one of those things, or a few of those things, but it still doesn't really define the cause. The cause likely is in terrain theory. So the cause can be environmental stress, toxins, fatigue, a combination of those things. When we get run down, what were we doing that got us run down? Did we not sleep enough? Did we expend too much energy? Did we eat too much junk food because we were stressed out? So the cause lies back there. We altered the terrain, which created a weakness. And then when we had a chance to experience a cold or a flu, because we've come across it or we've called it in some way, then the body says, yes, that cold or flu is allowed in. You can think of it as an immune system problem. The immune system behaved differently at the time because of fatigue and toxicity and all these other reasons. And it was just a window of time. So try not to really get bogged down in what germs, if they got what germ or which biomagnetic pair is the cause. It's incredibly complicated. It's hard to define. Your gut might tell you something. You might have a COVID-19 swab test that you did, and it seems to confirm that COVID-19. But yeah, was that really the cause, or was it the weakness that was in the body that allowed it to replicate, that allowed it to not be wiped out early before the symptoms began? So when we have an acute infection of a cold, and it's that very first day, and you've got the luxury of getting someone on that very first day, you may very well find 3 or 4 different viral pairs, and that person will feel better in 1 to 2 hours after neutralizing those pairs. It is absolutely wild when it happens. But if there's bacterial involvement too, it takes 3 days to feel the benefit of the biomagnetic pair work when it comes to the bacteria points. So a person with virus and bacteria activity, even though we won't know for sure, you can tell by the behaviour and how they respond. It gives us a bit more information. So someone who gets around 50% better same day, as you may have actually neutralised the viral part, but there's still a bacterial part. And the person who gets no benefit, just a small improvement, maybe 10-20% first day, and they have to be patient for their result. It could very well be that all the symptoms are coming from those pairs related to bacteria. And again, it could take up to 3 days for the full effect of neutralising those pairs to be felt in the symptoms. So yeah, that was a session with my boy. He still has a couple of more minutes to go. I'm going to end it there because you've seen it all.